A very good evening. I am Dr. Prasanna Pal and I am going to discuss veterinary parasitology. So from the at the beginning, I'll start with saying that all the organisms in this world can be broadly divided into two categories. First one is independent organism and secondly is dependent organism. What are the independent organism? Independent organisms do not require other organisms for their physiological activity like nutrition, metabolism and reproduction, etc. Whereas the dependent organisms, they require other organism for these functions. And depending upon the relationship, this dependent relationship can be of two types. First is heterospecific or homospecific. Heterospecific relationship occurs between two individuals of different species, then that is called heterospecific relationship. And homospecific relationship occur between two individuals of same species. Then coming back to parasitology. What is parasitology? Parasitology is a branch of science with the multidisciplinary aspects of biochemistry, physiology, biology, immunology, etc. of a parasite is called parasitology. The applied part of this discipline explores a detailed profile of parasite morphology, pathogenesis, and the control of the different disease as well. So now we will also discuss what is the importance of the veterinary parasitology. First of all, if we study parasitology, we will get some knowledge about the morphology, biology, and the pathogenesis that is caused by the parasite. Secondly, parasitic disease are of great economical importance and economical constraint also in India, which causes huge losses in production and mortality. तो अगर हम पैरासिटोलॉजी के बारे में पढ़ाई करते हैं तो इसके वजह से पूरा भारत में तथा पूरे विश्व में कितना लॉस होता है हर साल, इसके बारे में भी हमें पता चलेगा. नेक्स्ट वन इज दैट देयर शुड हैव बीन टैक्सोनॉमिक नॉलेज to identify any parasite, and we can have a great deal of taxonomic knowledge from this parasitology. And this subject also provide concrete knowledge of parasitic immunity, which is also required for immunoprotection and immunodiagnosis. And from this subject we can get knowledge of diagnosis of parasite, उसके बारे में भी हमें पता चलेगा. And finally, knowledge regarding control of the parasitic disease can also be achieved. The term parasitism actually is very difficult to define sometime because if there are two organisms related to each other, are dependent to each other, so generally the relationship between two organisms are very much complex. So before defining the term parasitology, we will define some other terms which comes in between this parasitism or parasitism. Okay, so what are those different terms? So first of all, it comes symbiosis. What is symbiosis? It's a close association between two individuals where both of the partners are dependent on each other. That is called symbiosis. Okay, and this relationship is always mutually beneficial. मतलब एक दूसरे को फायदा मिलता है. Then that is called symbiosis. And then symbiosis, it can be of two types. First one is that mutualism, and second one is commensalism. Coming into that. So what is mutualism? Mutualism is the association of two organisms where each partner get benefits from the other. Means both the partners are benefited, and one organism inevitably depends on the other organism. मतलब एक organism दूसरे के ऊपर बहुत ज़्यादा dependent रहेगा, and one partner cannot live with the other. And for example, the gut bacteria that are present in the gut of the intestine or gut or in the intestine, for it can be for insects, can be for some animals also, and so these bacteria are necessary for those insects, these bacteria which are present in the gut. And now coming into commensalism, the literal meaning of commensalism is eating at the same table. The literal meaning of the term commensalism is eating at the same table. So what happens here? The food and shelter, it is shared by each partner. More specifically, it could be defined in the way that one partner of this association benefit from the other partner, but the other partner neither harm nor benefit द अदर फ्रॉम व्हेयर इट इज़ बेनिफिटेड। सो एक को पूरा फायदा मिल रहा है, बाकी जो दूसरा है, मतलब जिसको फायदा मिल रहा है, वो दूसरे का ना नुकसान करता है ना उसका कुछ अच्छा करता है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, देयर इज एन एग्जाम्पल इज दैट सी एनिमोन एंड द क्लाउन फिश। द फिश टेक शेल्टर इन द टेंटेकुलर जोन ऑफ द सी एनिमल। तो सी एनिमल होता है, उसके अंदर उसका टेंटेकुलर जोन में वो हमारे फिश शेल्टर लेता है एंड प्रोटेक्ट्स देमसेल्फ फ्रॉम द अटैक ऑफ द होस्ट एंड अटैक ऑफ द होस्ट निमाटोसिस्ट एंड टेक द होस्ट फूड। सो खाना भी मतलब कलेक्शन करने में इसका हेल्प मिल रहा है, बट इट इज़ नॉट नाइदर बेनिफिटिंग द एनिमल नाइदर इट इज़ हार्मिंग द सी एनिमल। तो हम लोगों को समझ में आ गया व्हाट इज सिम्बायोसिस, और इसका जो दो मतलब देयर कैन बी two conditions, that is mutualism and commensalism, as we have already discussed. Now coming to the parasitism. Parasitism में क्या होता है? It is defined by an obligatory and intimate association between two organisms, and more importantly two heterospecific organisms. Means the organisms should not be same, the organisms should be different. These two organisms will belong to different species, whereby one organism will be smaller in size and another which is called parasite, जो छोटा size में होता है, that is parasite. This is very important. And the another organism that is larger in size, that is called the host. And this parasite takes benefit from the host and leading to the cause of disease or any harmful effect. This is important. So the parasite gets benefited from the host. तो इसको पूरा फायदा मिल रहा है होस्ट से, और उसके बदले में क्या कर रहा है? This is causing disease into the animal. For example, Tinea solium, this is a parasite, and who is the host? Host is the human. So Tinea solium, it resides the human body and taking all the benefits like nutrients or other things, shelters from the body, and in return it is causing disease to the animal or disease to the human being. So that's the parasitism. In this regard, I will also discuss some other terms that are related to the parasitology. And for example, the first one is hyperparasitism. Hyperparasitism, from the term itself clear that it is a more parasite of some parasitism, right? So what is this? This is a condition when one parasite parasitize another parasite. So suppose for example, I am an host and some parasite is already being there and taking benefit from me. Okay, and another parasite has parasitized that parasite. Okay, so that parasite will call that hyperparasitism. For an example, Nosema dolphusi is one hyperparasite of a larval stage of flatworm or trematoda, Bucephalus cuculus. Okay, so Bucephalus, that is a parasite. Okay, that causes some disease in the animal. That is and for that larval stage of Bucephalus, there is another parasite that affect that larva of Bucephalus. What is that? Nosema. So this Nosema is an hyperparasite. And now we will discuss two more terms, that is parasitosis and parasitiasis. Parasitosis and parasitiasis. So what is parasitosis? Generally we know if there is osis at the end, that is there is something called disease. अगर कोई disease है तभी last में osis आता है in general. So what is parasitosis? It is called parasitosis when parasitic infection produce disease entity comprising clinical sign. जब parasitic infection के वजह से animal में disease produce हो जाता है and having clinical sign, we call that parasitosis. एंड दूसरा क्या है? पैरासिटिएसिस, PARASITIA, पैरासिटिएसिस, TIASIS. It is called parasitiasis when parasitic infection does not produce any disease entity comprising clinical signs, though the organisms are pathogenic. Means the organisms are pathogenic, are residing in the body or taking benefit from the body but not producing disease. It is called parasitiasis. There is another term called predation and predator. Okay, what is predation? Predation, PREDATION, is a relationship when one partner lives by eating the other partner. That is called predation. And who is predator? The partner organism of predation which eat the other organism. The organism which eat is called predator. Then comes to polyparasitism. From the name itself, it is very much clear that multiple parasitic infection is called polyparasitism. Then now we will discuss the classification of the different parasites. Okay, so now the parasites can be classified into different ways. So starting from the beginning, at the beginning, we will discuss obligatory parasite and facultative parasite. And again, from the name itself, it is very much clear. Who is obligatory parasite? The parasite would be called obligatory parasite if it is completely dependent on the host animal during its life cycle or a part of the life cycle. This is called obligatory parasite because the parasite cannot live without the host during their parasitic phase. मतलब अगर host नहीं रहेगा तो ये parasite जिंदा नहीं रह सकता. It has to be dependent on the host. So what are the some example? For example, Tinea solium found in the intestine of the man. Ascaris sum, it is found in the intestine of the pig. Ascaris sum. Toxocara canis, from the name itself it is clear, it is found in the dog, intestine of the dog. Toxocara canis. Fasciola hepatica, you know, that is found in the liver and the bile duct of sheep, goat and cattle. Fasciola hepatica, this is the liver fluke for these animals. So all these are obligatory parasite. Then coming to the facultative parasite. Facultative parasite is not a regular parasite but adapt to be a parasite in unusual situation arise. Normally these organisms are free living, मतलब वो अपने से जिंदा रह सकता है, आराम से जिंदा रह सकता है. Okay, but develop to become a parasite when there is accidentally they are being eaten or entered a wound or in something through body openings. इसके जरिए जब वो किसी के बॉडी में चला जाता है एनिमल में, it can become parasite, or otherwise they are free living. For example, this is the Naegleria species, this is an example. Then Micronema species, this is another example. They are the free living organisms but can cause extremely serious condition when they infect the human being. Then continuing to this, there comes another term, that is the accidental parasite. These parasites, when they are the parasites but they affect unusual host. For example, rodent flea bites dog and man which are unusual. Rodent flea, from the name itself clear, it is for the rodent, but sometimes if suppose it bites and the dog or man or infect them, so it becomes an accidental parasite for dog or man. Okay. Then also there come another classification, that is permanent parasite or the temporary parasite. Okay, what is permanent parasite? Again, from the name you know